Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for an MP webinar covering the MP demo and HCM solutions overview. I'm Katie Kreider, Marketing Specialist here at MP. For those of you joining us on a webinar for the first time, MP is a full-service human capital management company. We offer a complete suite of products and services to support organizations through the entire employee lifecycle, including recruiting, HR, payroll, benefits administration, time and attendance, and compliance assistance. We support our clients with cutting-edge technical solutions, as well as proactive, reliable service and a deep HR and payroll expertise. At MP, we are wired for HR and help our clients succeed by aligning their people strategy with their business goals. I'm excited to introduce your presenter for today's program, Chris Gertler. Chris heads the business development team at MP. He's passionate about helping businesses across all industries find the HR, payroll, and recruiting solutions they need to achieve their business goals. Chris has his BA in History and Economics from Hobart and William Smith Colleges. Just a few housekeeping issues before we get started here today. If you would like to submit a question during the program, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. We will be sending out the recording of the webinar later today, along with all of the slides. So with all that, I'm going to hand the mic off to Chris.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Katie. And thank you for joining for June's demo and HCM Solutions webinar for MP. We like to do this once a month just to give you an inside look at MP software, our solution, and kind of talk through how we can help you and your organization when it comes to those payroll and HR functions. So just to set a quick agenda here, I'm going to talk a little bit more and expand on what Katie mentioned earlier on about who we are as MP. We can talk a little bit about the services from a high level, the 4 core areas of service that we offer here. We'll dive into our payroll services a little bit, talk about some of the benefits of partnering with MP, as well as we'll show you a little bit under the hood of the platform. Obviously, it won't be as in-depth as you could get. We're happy to reach out afterwards and kind of, if there's something you want to explain a little bit more, you want to see a little bit more how that works, happy to do that as well. I'll talk a little bit about MP's HR service offering and the benefits that allows, as well as a cool new AI-powered module that MP offers under our platform. We'll talk a little bit at the end about our tax credit services. We'll touch on that briefly, touch on our recruiting, and then we'll leave the time open for questions. Feel free to submit a question during it. I'm happy to answer it during it if I can. If not, I'll follow up afterwards with an answer as well. All right, so moving in, I love to use this slide in any presentation. I think this gives a great overview of who MP is. So as you can see on that top right there, we do everything I like to say from hire to retire on that full employee life cycle. So we'll help you with any HR issues, compliance issues. Businesses often come to us with help if they operate in multiple states. How do you stay compliant? How do you keep track of all of that? Obviously your basic payroll, so getting those employees paid, getting those taxes taken care of, tracking all of that. Time, if you have employees who are hourly, tracking that time, tracking those paid time off accruals, and tracking all of that. Benefits. So on the benefits side, we'll partner with your benefits broker, allow that open enrollment to be administered through MP's software and our platform, as well as hiring. So we'll talk about that with the MP recruiting. And then we do have a engagement and performance module, as well as a training and a learning management system too. So I'll just read this, that MP, we combine award-winning service and powerful human capital management technology to provide businesses with a seamless employee management process. We're with companies every step of the way through the employee experience. We're here to help attract, engage, and retain your top talent so we can ensure that your people are empowered to make a difference. A couple of just things to note down on the bottom. Our platform, iSolved, I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. 3 million users on the platform. We have a 98% implementation score. We serve all 50 states, and we've been in business 19 years. We're headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. The 4 pillars that we offer service-wise at MP, this slide outlines them perfectly. We'll start in that top right there, and that's kind of going to follow the flow of this presentation. So we'll start with that workforce management. I'll talk a little bit about the payroll the time and attendance, as well as the onboarding and offboarding, and touch a little bit on that benefit administration module. HR services. So as I mentioned, and I alluded to, we have that HR services. They serve as executive sounding board for HR related matters. They help install and strengthen that HR infrastructure. We help to enable your technology as well as ensure compliance with those state and federal guidelines. From a talent management perspective, so performance management, so performance reviews, allowing you and your employees to go through the performance reviews at the same time. Let those employees fill out the performance review, you fill out one next to it, and then puts them on a screen together. You guys can go through and walk through both responses to the questions that you choose to pose. Training and learning management software. So anything you may need from a training perspective, we have that. We can track certifications through that. If you have a training, it comes preloaded with trainings, but we can also customize and allow you to import maybe a training that you may already have. Employee engagement. So that's really cool on that dashboard in that talent management portal. You can recognize people's birthdays, recognize people's work anniversaries, as well as also allows you to succession plan. Finally, talent acquisition, also the MP recruiting space. We work with your recruiting department to source qualified candidates. We have a 40-day time to fill metric and a huge return on investment versus agencies. You get a dedicated rep, a dedicated recruiter working with you throughout the entire process. So we'll go through those background checks, help with the cognitive and behavioral assessments, as well as our applicant tracking software. Moving right along, let's dive in and talk a little bit about our payroll service. So MP clients get a dedicated service rep to answer their payroll and HCM questions. That's the top. That's kind of what we really hang our hat on. In this space, customer service is often one of the things further down the list that companies focus on. For us, we focus on that and really make sure that our clients are getting one person to answer their questions. What's that mean? That means that when one of our clients has a question about their payroll, or maybe an issue comes up that they weren't anticipating, they're not calling a 1-800 number. They're not calling a customer service queue. They're reaching out to a dedicated person that they have their phone number and their email. So that person's getting those responses directly back to them. The other thing I like about that person knows their business. So if you call in with a payroll question, you don't have to spend 10 minutes at the beginning of the call explaining the nuances of, hey, say, for example, a landscaping business or a manufacturing company. You don't have to explain those nuances. That person's built a relationship with you, knows your business, so you can get your question answered in a much more timely fashion. We utilize the iSolve software platform. So we're one of many iSolve resellers. And a 30-year study ranked iSolve as one of the top HCM providers. So for us, it allows us to utilize the iSolve platform, but it allows us to focus on our customer service and focus actually on our clients and invest that time and energy back into focusing on the clients rather than worrying about the software side of the platform. I'm going to come back to this theme a lot during this presentation. The great thing about iSolve and one of our core differentiators, it's a single source of truth. So across all of our modules within the platform, it's a single employee record. This means that when an employee is onboarded, that's the same employee record that the time will be tracked to, their deductions will be taken out of if they're on a healthcare plan. It's the same one that paid time off is going to accrue when they punch in and clock out. It'll be the same record. This eliminates those errors and redundancies. So you don't have to have, 3 modules where you have to bring, all right, so employee A exists in my time module. I have to transfer that to employee A's record in the actual payroll module. I have to then bring in employee A's benefit deductions from that benefit module. Everything exists under one roof and is all tied to one employee record. So we'll come back to that and talk a little bit about how that's more important when it comes to the time and attendance. So just real quickly, I want to show this from an admin perspective with our payroll module. This is what your payroll grid looks like within the iSolve platform as an admin. So you'll see the time entry. If you don't have them clocking in, clocking out on a time clock, that an electronic one that feeds in, if they're clocking just on a paper time clock, this is where you can go in. These are just examples of employees here. You can see their hourly rate. You would go in, put their hours for the week. You have it all there. You can verify it. You see the ones at the top there that are salaried. So you'll be able to go in and see that as well. When you do get to the point that you want to process the payroll, you have this pre-processing verification tab. You can ensure that payroll is error-free. You'll be able to review the payroll register before submitting it, as well as be able to see those taxes, payroll amounts, so live checks, direct deposit, and the MP invoice available to view prior to processing. This is just an example of one of what those payroll register reports can look like. You can see this, preview it before you actually go to process the payroll, make sure everything looks accurate. Those deductions are coming out. But like I said, that's just an example of what that report is going to look like. Walking a little bit back now, walking more towards how we talked about that employee life cycle, let's discuss a little bit about onboarding and offboarding. So two of the most can be the most difficult things sometimes, and the most confusing. We can configure it to match specific needs within your organization. So for onboarding, you may now do it all on paper. It might take 2 days when that employee starts to get through their onboarding paperwork. With iSolve's onboarding module, you can set up those various onboarding packets for each department. For example, as that example shows, your sales team probably needs different documents than your operations team does, than an office team does, than a truck driver does. Maybe for your truck drivers, you need to get their CDL certification. You can set that up so their onboarding process, when you select that department, however you want, that's whether it's a transportation department, that prompts them to not be able to move through the onboarding process until they upload that CDL certification. So we can configure that so that you have it for different components. It all, once again, feeds into that single employee record, as well as at the same time that when you do, it's all sent through one link to the employee through one packet online. So it's all done online. No need to do that paper stuff. No need to do the paper stuff where it could have that error or that redundancy, or maybe you're collecting information twice from 2 different places. This comes through one spot and then feeds into the system where it's needed. In the same vein, referring right back, that worked out to the offboarding functionality. You can track equipment returns as well as set the different workflows. So maybe, for example, you need to make sure this equipment's returned and accounted for when somebody goes through that offboarding process. So when somebody moves on from the organization, you're able to track that too. This is those where you can create within the platform. You can create those onboarding templates. So you see, you can create a new hire onboarding. You can assign that workflow. So you'll be able to go in and change the different workflows, assign it to the companies as well. So you could throw a message on it. You know, if you want to give a longer message of like, welcome, you need to fill these out. When they go through the onboarding, it'll walk them through, hey, you need to submit this, and next step, they need to submit this, next step. Just kind of walk them through what they need to submit in order to get that. So pausing there for a second. I'm just going to make sure we haven't had any questions so far. No worries. Once again, feel free, throw them in at any point. But we'll continue from there. I want to talk now about what's time and attendance. How do we track that time when employees join? So our time and attendance application is native within the iSolve tech stack. That means that our clients do not need a separate time platform. So there are many time platforms out there, and other companies use different time platforms that then, import, export into the payroll module. Once again, creating that duplicate employee record. For us, it's all under one roof. It's the same employee record. When that employee is onboarded, for example, as we talked about onboarding in that last slide, when that employee is onboarded, they come right in, that employee record is right there. All that information goes onto that record. And then it continues through. So our time and attendance module allows employees to track time, paid time off, accruals. Also allows employers to track time against specific jobs, equipment, grants, etc. So you can make sure that not only when they go to put their time in, are they tracking it against their payroll sheet and what they're actually going to get paid, but they're tracking it against, maybe a specific job. Maybe you have to job cost against this job. I know I used to work at a boatyard, and we had to do that all the time, and track against specific jobs. So you can all do that through the iSolve platform. So once again, like I talked about, it's that single source of truth. So that time's going to the same record as that onboarding information. So when they're onboarded and they put down their, work location, that gets fed into that record. And then when they put down anything else, it all feeds into the same record. So it eliminates that error, that need for any errors or redundancies. Taking a look at what the time module looks like. So our platform is mobile enabled, as opposed to some that have an app. Ours is mobile enabled, meaning when you log on, it's a website. You log on the internet, but it's enabled to look like an app when you get on your phone. Cool thing about that, you don't have to worry about an app update. You don't have to worry about multiple apps. You don't have to worry that, your phone's going to become, how many of us have had a phone that runs out of, it's not compliant anymore, and won't allow you to download specific apps. So it's also tablet enabled, easy to use. This is from an employee perspective. You can see they clock in, so they're punched in, punch out. They can allocate, we could change the types of punches. So for example, if you need them to punch out for lunch or a break, we can do that as well. You can also allocate their time to different jobs, like I talked about, and locations. For nonprofits, they can allocate it to a specific grant, and it can be allocated across different departments as well. You can see on the right there where they can add the detail. It shows the location, shows the date, time, type would be, maybe it's a meal punch, and a labor group they can allocate to a job site, a department, a task, anything of that sort. Time card access. It's very easy for the employee to read and use. They can see their schedules, days worked, hours recorded. Important to note, employees can't edit only supervisors unless they're using the time card to manually log time. Sometimes companies do that, but most of the time they don't. So only a supervisor is able to edit that. Missing punch alert, exception reporting. So did someone forget to punch in or they clocked in? You'll be able to see this from a supervisor perspective. It'll show that they're missing a punch. You can go in, check with an employee and say, hey, did you mean to punch in at this time? Yep, great, no worries. I'll take care of it. I'll fix it for you, and move forward with that. So that's the payroll and the time attendance part of our software and our module. I want to talk just very briefly about our HR services as well. And then I want to talk about this cool new module that MP has that incorporates artificial intelligence, AI, into your day-to-day workings in human resources. HR services. So MP's HR service offering allows our clients to have a dedicated HR business partner to support their current team. We can assist with everything from handbook writing to daily compliance questions. And there is no hour limit with our service. So we're consistently available to answer those questions when they pop up. Once again, very similar to the payroll rep and your account manager on the payroll side. You'll have a HR business partner. It won't be a 1-800 call queue, call center. You're calling somebody, you're emailing somebody directly that knows your business and builds that relationship with you to where they can answer those questions very quickly. So I'd love to share more. Feel free to reach out if this is something that you're interested in, getting that extra additional support for your HR department. So let's talk a little bit about predictive people analytics. So this is a module within the iSolve platform, relatively new. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is. We're going to talk about how it works. We'll talk about a couple key features of it. I'll show you a couple screenshots of it. And we'll talk about this. So it's a powerful, sophisticated, intuitive AI-powered analytics tool. It incorporates, connects data from your employees within the iSolve platform. So it allows you as users to build dashboards driven by their data housed within iSolve. So it takes all of the data that's within iSolve on that single employee record and drives all of this artificial intelligence kind of giving you that data that once again can be imported to view the metrics, predict trends with insights to reach your business goals and increase retention. So it's really very AI driven, very ahead of the curve and cutting edge. So how does it work? So it aggregates. So it captures that data and processing. So within iSolve, you have that payroll data, human resources data, talent data, workforce, enrichment. So you have the salary history, profile information, demographics, job titles, positions, skills, turnover and retention, hours worked, competitive intelligence. So it grabs, what's maybe the typical salary for this, survey responses, and then goes through industry benchmarks as well. So then it analyzes that data. So it gives you the workforce insights, external insights, insights into your employees, insights to your financials. So it allows you to kind of go through that as well. And then visualize. So these are some of the screenshots then we'll get into. So you can see it on the web, mobile, you can get these dashboards and drill downs. We'll talk a little bit about the voice active feature of it, kind of like a mini Siri within the platform, to get you this additional information, and then take action on that. So it allows you to, help with those strategic decisions, planning, budgeting, prescriptive recommendations as well. So key features, you have that voice navigation and virtual assistant. So with your microphone turned on, you can sit there, an HR professional can sit there and say, tell me how many vice presidents I have. Tell me how many vice presidents I have on the East Coast. Tell me how many employees I have in X area. Dashboards, you can configure those views of all the metrics into user-defined groupings that don't require experts to interpret the data. So if you want to group via department, if you want to group via, across departments, trend those key metrics over the defined periods. So maybe you want to look at the last year, the last 2 years, predictive modeling to plot the scenarios that can help identify what actions are best for the business, as well. So I want to show you a couple, just what these dashboards look like a little bit, because I think it's super beneficial. So right here, you can see like that home dashboard, so that you can see their number of employees, performance scores, male to female ratios, revenue per employee, cost per hire, average absences, source of the hire. So, whether was it an employee referral, was it through LinkedIn, what's their tenure of your company, professional development, compensation. It just all of these different dashboards that can show you everything you may want to know about your organization. Right here, so it could give you a recruitment analysis. So what's your current time to fill? Is that time to fill super high? Why is that? Your cost per hire, job candidates, time to fill by department. So maybe you have one department that's more difficult to fill, or one that's easier. You can see this all. Diversity, equity analysis. You can see all of that. Employees by ethnicity, gender. You can see the turnover differences as well. Voice activated drill down. So once again, you can go through, you have that voice activation function. You can go down, drill into that, just ask it a question, and it gives you that information back. Turnover rate. So it can predict this based off, that all that data that's within it. It can predict that as well. Projections all the way out into the future too. So a super beneficial tool to just kind of take what it's already seeing from past trends, what it's seeing currently, and put that all together. So that's predictive people analytics. It's a module within our iSalt platform. Super beneficial for companies to combine that with our HR services, because then our HR services can look at that and walk through kind of what some of that data is, and help you create those plans based off what the trends are projecting. Let's talk briefly about our learning management system within iSoft. So it's designed as a full system learning management platform, offers courses that encourage employees to grow personally and professionally, and allows for certifications to be completed and tracked, maintaining compliance. So super simple. It really allows for that learning. You get access to a pre-built library of 150 courses. So topics include compliance, business skills, workplace safety, management, etc. I've used it for anything from business/sales skills, all the way to compliance, sexual harassment training, anything you may need from a training or management perspective. Also has gamification aspects. I'll talk a little bit about that in the screenshots, allowing for competitions and the ability to earn points and badges, because who doesn't like gamifying everything? I know I absolutely do. So you can see here, you have those points. This is actually my personal one, what it looks like. You can see I don't have a ton of points, but there's onboarding to the experience. So I went through that when I started at MP, walking through what my onboarding was and that training I needed at the beginning. You can see those pre-built courses that they have in there. So, anything from leadership and management, there was one on a folder on COVID-19, HR compliance, sales and service, software, workplace safety. So maybe you need something from a manufacturing perspective of workplace safety. You can have that in there as well. Create those assignments too. So you can make assignments / you can also make courses. We've used this before. You can make those assignments and assign it to different groups. You can also make a course path. So maybe you want to incorporate a couple of your courses that are more nuanced towards you and your organization. You can create that, walk an employee through it, assign that course to them, and then get notified when they finish it. So pausing very briefly there, I don't see any questions. Feel free, once again, add any questions in that you may have. But let's just move right along. And the last thing, I think, coming up, the last couple of things I want to talk about. One, I'm going to touch very briefly on this. MP recruiting. So as I mentioned, that's one of the 4 pillars that we have here at MP. It's a great outsourced recruiting option for businesses. Like I talked about, and once again, there's that idea of a dedicated person. Our clients are assigned a dedicated recruiter that works with your team to source and screen qualified candidates for your positions. Our average time to fill is 40 days. So that's a great option for businesses, especially the return on investment versus a staffing agency is huge, and businesses see a lot of success working with that dedicated recruiter. They really work directly with the HR team to help source and screen those candidates, work with them through the process to hopefully finding people to fill those positions that you're in your organization may be looking for. I'll point to that QR code in the bottom right. We have a full MP recruiting webinar on June 21st, 2023 at 1 o'clock Eastern time. If you scan that QR code, that'll take you right to the registration page. You'll register, get the link the same way for this one. And our director of recruiting sales and then our VP of recruiting will be on that webinar to walk you through how you can benefit from partnering with MP recruiting and kind of the overview and much more in depth of what our recruiting service does. Last one, MP has a tax credit service offering. Goes hand in hand with a lot of the services we offer. We help organizations with qualifying and receiving tax credits. These are the 2 big ones we're working with right now. The ERTC still remains a huge topic. We have a webinar coming up on that as well. It was rolled out through the CARES Act in the beginning of 2021, designed to help companies retain their employees during the COVID-19 pandemic. Reach out to us if you haven't claimed that yet. We are happy to sit down, talk through what you might be eligible for, and then show you kind of how to claim that. We can work with that. WOTC is another one that's ongoing with Work Opportunity Tax Credit. It's a government program designed to provide a credit to companies who hire from empowerment zones. So areas where employees and people may not get as many opportunities. It's a government program that provides that credit for you hiring those employees. So with that, I know I shared a lot there, but I'm going to open it up now at the end here for questions. Feel free, throw them in the chat. If you have any, and I'll give it a couple seconds. If there aren't any questions, Katie, I think I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thanks, Chris. To learn more about MP's full service solutions for 2023 and more, please visit us at www.mp-hr.com. And you can also visit our website for more information on all of the services that Chris just mentioned. Be sure to join us for our upcoming webinar tomorrow, HR Compliance and Payroll Software, Onboarding, Offboarding, and Reducing Risk. To visit our website and to register and see the full calendar of upcoming events and available resources. We will be sending out the recording of today's webinar along with the presentation slides this afternoon. Thanks for joining us and have a terrific day.